when you're starting off on your clinical journey, obviously at the beginning you don't need a huge amount of material, and so most people will adopt a fed batch strategy for supply at early phase in the clinical. But with the advent of continuous manufacturing coming online, now you've got the opportunity to basically consider where you're going to end up. So are you going to be scaling up through the process as you go through your life cycle of your product, or are you going to move across to continuous and scale through time, so by increasing production time? Now, if you've got a stable molecule, then you can go down either route, and then actually where you think you're going to end up with the market is probably going to be one of the main considerations between choosing those two routes. If you have an unstable product that requires you to run in a perfusion mode, then obviously you will have to adopt a continuous strategy at the beginning. There are some considerations that you then need to bring in if you are considering switching between the two. Some of that is around selecting cell lines that are appropriate in both a fed batch and a continuous space. And then the other sort of piece will be understanding how you are going to go about your regulatory filing to make sure that you've got the ability to move between the fed batch and the continuous area. So actually a lot of the challenges are more around people's confidence and some maybe sort of cultural in terms of uncertainty and lack of experience. So we, as an industry, we've developed a number of equipment solutions now in the continuous space, and obviously we ourselves have developed our Symphonix platform with continuous in mind, as well as be able to sort of run fed batch and integrated processes. But I think one of the really big challenges at the moment is just that we haven't yet got enough confidence in the industry with continuous, and that's because it's still very new, and we're only just starting to see manufacturing processes that are adopting continuous from the upstream all the way through to in the downstream. And then the other sort of thing is there's a lot of people have talked a bit about how do you define batches and lots, and in actual fact a lot of that is actually more to do with business risk and in the industry working out, or companies working out what exactly the right profile should be for their particular product. And so the challenge really is not that we don't have a technical deficiency, it's more just the knowledge and the experience and the confidence, which is something that we think we'll see coming in the next 5 years as we get more GMP facilities online that can do continuous operations. And I think that's quite a big shift away from where we were maybe 5-10 years ago, when we were starting to really think about how you would implement continuous, and people have been innovating equipment and control strategies. For example, I've been authoring papers around how to think about control strategies in terms of the continuous space through the BioPharm Continuum Sortium, and so that sort of clarification has been a big game changer as well, and that people now feel that there's a consensus approach, which again the industry appreciates, because then you understand what the sort of the mainstream direction of travel is. It is talked a lot about in terms of potentially cost of goods reduction and increase in productivity, but it has its place alongside fed batch, and so one of the things that I don't think we'll ever see disappearing is fed batch. So especially in the large scale sort of multi-pack 20,000 litre reactor things, you're still going to see those sorts of facilities still here, because they do outcompete continuous when you get to really big scales. But there's this mid-range between sort of the 100 to 500 kilograms of product a year sort of space, where it's not quite stainless steel large scale, but it's a bit more than the sort of 2 to 5K single-use reactor space through a fed batch program. And in that space, I think continuous will really have a strong play, partly because of its flexibility as well, so that you can actually ramp up and down by just changing the duration of your process. And that, again, gives you a level of agility. And I think benefits that the continuous brings in that area is that it allows you to be more sort of sensitive to market demand and market pressure in terms of being able to ramp up and ramp down production, especially if you're sort of got a product that maybe has a seasonal sort of demand influence. And then the other sort of piece where I think continuous will massively help is where the upstream, if that keeps pushing the titers and the productivity outputs, then really continuous is pretty much the only way at the moment to really mitigate for that increase of material that's coming out of upstream, and by basically just being able to continually manage and process that quantity of material. So as a technology, it's going to sort of supplement or augment where we are now with fed batch, but this gives us an extra lever that we can pull within that sort of space, which at the moment is quite hard to fill between the sort of the mid-scale to the large-scale facilities that we have around the world. Clearly, it being quite a new technology, so that you really want to be working with somebody who's got experience in terms of developing processes that are, fed batch based, but also really understanding how a continuous process is similar to a fed batch, but also different from a fed batch. Having people that are innovative and creative, having a CDMO that is open to innovation, because one of the things that is different between continuous and fed batch is that obviously in a continuous process, because you're running over a longer period of time, you need to be a bit more flexible to adapting to any changes, any perturbations that you might be seeing. And some of those things are maybe not necessarily directly in the process, but things around buffer management, things around your supply chain. And so actually you want to be working with somebody who really understands the equipment. And in our case, where we've actually developed Symphonex systems, which were taking continuous as one of their sort of remits for the design, working with a CDMO that has a really good understanding of not just a continuous process, but the equipment that you need and the control strategies that you need to put in place around it. We have obviously our fed batch processes, but we've also developed our MarrowX offering, which is perfusion upstream with our Symphonex purification platform that has been designed to be an integrated continuous system. And so by pulling together those two aspects of the process, the upstream and the downstream, that allows us to be able to be really flexible and agile, and actually use aspects of that MarrowX offering on any sort of process, so we can flex and use those strategies and ideas to basically get the best out of a continuous process, and also apply it to all of our kind of operational strategies, and that's sort of kind of really embodied within our COJO-X philosophy within the company, where we're looking to standardize our operations and make technical transfer more straightforward. But really, that really depends on having the right technologies and the right processes in place. So it's not just a question of trying to sort of be more standardized and more streamlined. It's actually really using and developing equipment and technologies in such a way that you're thinking about those in a more innovative and creative way. And that really then pays into the continuous space, where we need to be really thinking about the whole process as one unit, but also really understanding how everything interplays between the raw materials, the products, the process, and then also the release of that material out towards the patient. And so for us, we see that the kind of all those different strategies for manufacture, whether that's scaling out, scaling up, or continuous, they all really interplay between each other, and having somebody who really understands that is going to be critical in your CDMO partner.